There we go. So we are glad that you're here. And if things go really bizarre today, it is because I am running everything from up here, which means I may forget to turn on microphones. So make sure that you give me time to do that. And so Jane is with her company. They have a dinner tonight. And so I am on my own today, and will realize that I am not as smart as some people tend to think I am. But let's pray and we'll get started. Father, I thank you so much for this evening. I thank you for your word, and I'm so grateful that even when it appears that you're absent altogether, you're still there. You're still at work. So Lord, I pray that you would bless our time. I pray for those who are joining us online that you would bless them as well. For anybody who may be traveling, we know that the weather is going to be kind of weird tonight. Lord, I pray that you would keep them safe, whether they're coming here or they're going elsewhere. And Lord, I just, again, just give you this time, and I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. So we are looking today at the book of Esther. And Esther, if you see, is in the order of our English Bible, is number 17. There are 10 chapters, and it is a book of history. Now, we just finished Nehemiah, so we've got Ezra and Nehemiah, which took place at the time when after the exile, when the people of Israel went back into the land. And so by the time Esther comes around, we have Xerxes is the king of Persia, and the folks in Israel are settling. Okay, so but yet, anybody remember that Persia, Xerxes is the king of Persia. He is reigning from Susa. Anybody remember where Persia fits on the timeline of biblical history?
It's the second kingdom in Daniel's prophecies.
Yes, it is. First one, of course, was Babylon, and then Persia actually conquered Babylon the same way that Babylon conquered Assyria. They came in through the water. They came to a basically undefended city. They came in through the water duct. Of course, in the book of Daniel, we find out that Belshazzar is throwing a party while the Persians are at the gate. And but also we know that Persia was used by God for a couple of really amazing things. Now, first of all, remember Habakkuk, who is either the bravest or the dumbest prophet in all the world, because anybody remember how Habakkuk starts his book? He's questioning God. How long are you going to put up with the sin? So, this is not something that you normally want to do, is go up and start trying to put God on the hot seat. But that's exactly what Habakkuk does. And God tells Habakkuk, no problem, I am going to raise up the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, those impetuous people, he calls them, and I'm going to use them as my instrument of judgment against Judah. And anybody remember what Habakkuk's response was?
You're nuts. They're worse than we are.
Yep. It's like, the Babylon, how can you choose them? They're worse than we are. And so, but God does tell him, God tells him two things. First of all, God says, Habakkuk, who are you and who am I? Which is how God normally responds whenever we try to put him on the spot. At least in my life, that's how he always responds. Dan, who are you and who am I? And then I just go, uncle. And then the other thing that we did that he does is he tells them that God is going to judge the Babylonians for their sin, even though he's going to use them as instruments of judgment. And the Persians are the group that he chooses to use. And of course, that is with Cyrus. And what's the other claim to fame that we know of King Cyrus, who is the first and actually the best ruler and the most powerful ruler in the history of Persia? Do we know anything about him?
He's the one that let all the Jews go back. So
Okay. Mm-hmm. What else?
that's not what you were thinking of.
It's right on that, but it's along with that.
Yeah. And he wrote the letter and made them all pay for it.
He did, yes. He was also called out by name by Isaiah in 750 BC. So 300 years before he makes the proclamation for the Jews to go back into the land, God, through the prophet Isaiah, says Cyrus is going to do this. Okay, so Persia fits quite a bit into the biblical narrative. Now, when we get to Esther, things are going well. Okay, I mean, things are going well in Persia, and we have Xerxes, or has the King James, and actually even the ESV says that Ahasuerus is reigning. Now, he is actually King Xerxes. And he came to the throne in 486 BC. So this is important as we begin to take a look at the timeline of the book of Esther. Because, of course, the first thing that we see in the first 2 chapters is we find how Esther becomes queen. So let's take a look at, can I get somebody to read, how about the first 9 verses of Esther chapter 1?
Days of Ahasuerus, who reigned from India to Ethiopia over 127 provinces. In those days, when King
You can call him Xerxes.
Xerxes, thank you, sat on his royal throne in Susa, the citadel, in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a feast for all his officials and servants. The army of Persia in Media, and the nobles and governors of the provinces were before him. When he showed the riches of his royal glory and the splendor of his pomp, of his greatness, for many days, 180 days. And when these days were completed, the king gave for all the people present in Susa, the citadel, both great and small, a feast lasting for 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were white cotton curtains and violet hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rods and marble pillars, and also couches of gold and silver on a mosaic, pavement of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and precious stones. Drinks were served in golden vessels of different kinds, and the royal wine was lavished according to the bounty of the king, and drinking was according to his edict. There was no compulsion, for the king had given orders to all the staff of his palace to do as each man desired. Queen Vashti also gave a feast for the women in the palace that belonged to King Xerxes.
Okay, we'll stop there. So we're looking at, first of all, who, in my opinion, the only righteous person in this whole story is Queen Vashti. And but let's take a look at the stuff behind this, because this is important. That because it's going to tell us a little bit about Xerxes, but it's also going to explain something that happens later on in the book. So it said that he came to power in 486 to 46, 45, somewhere in there, BC. And we have the 3rd year of his reign. So we're going to drop that down. And so now we're looking at, could be 483, could be 482. He throws a party that lasts for 6 months. Now, again, whenever you're looking at ancient time periods here, you have to be, it's give or take a day or two. Okay, this is roughly the time that he reigns. So what he does is he throws a party. Now, Xerxes loved him some Xerxes, and he believed in the power of the Persian army. And there was one group of people that were a thorn in his side. Those were those nasty people hanging out there on the Riviera with nude beaches, Greece. And he was obsessed with Greece, and he wanted to take them out. Yes.
Daddy got his butt kicked by the Greeks.
Yeah, he did. And
Battle of Marathon.
yeah. And So I mean, but from this, you're going to find it's going to actually affect both sides here. But we've got Xerxes wants to show the Greeks that you cannot mess with the Persian Empire. Now, let's think about this. Greece was known for having city-states, and the Greeks did not play well with each other in the sandbox. So hence you have the Grecian wars, the Troy versus Athens, Athens versus Marathon, all of these different groups and city-states that would fight against each other. So they were not galvanized. If they ever got their act together, they would be pretty tough, as we find out later in the 300s. But at this point in time, they are just a bunch of city-states hanging out on beachfront property. But it's a very strategic beachfront property because they own so much of the Aegean, so much of the Mediterranean. If you control what Greece controls, you can be very, very wealthy. What Persia has the stuff on the north. Okay, they're up in the Baltic Sea, they're up in there, they're going into the steppes of Asia. They're in Iran, Iraq. They have a lot of oil, which isn't going to do them any good for a couple of 100 years. But so Xerxes wants to go up against Greece. So he plans this elaborate campaign against Greece that he's going to take off. He's going to leave Persia in about 481, so they can have his first battle in 480. That's the Battle of Thermopylae, where he actually wins that one. But what the Persians did, normally you throw the victory party after you win. That makes sense, right? Well, that's not Xerxes. Xerxes decides he's going to throw the victory party before he goes to battle. That's what we're dealing with here. Okay? He is throwing this massive party for all the nobles and for everybody, talking about how good he is in battle and how much he's going to kick the Grecian butts. Yes.
Big ego.
Yes.
In preparation for the campaign, he builds a pontoon bridge across the Bosphorus, and it gets taken out by a storm. So big an ego that he has the water flogged and branded to bring it under control.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. Because we all know that if you flog the water, and that it's going to do something for you. But anyway, the thing is that he is throwing a party. So he throws this lavish party for basically 6 months. Okay, and now when he talks about this party here, what are some of the things that we see about it? We see the excess that takes place. So notice that he's opening up the wine cellar and telling everybody to drink all you want. Nobody is being told that there is no limit. Nobody's being cut off. Okay, he's telling the sheriff to let them drive home drunk, basically. And so they're partying, they're all feeling good. Now at the same time, Queen Vashti, who is at this point, she is the chief of all of his harem, and she is throwing her own party for the women in the palace, all of them that belong to King Xerxes. So she's throwing a party for the harem. Okay, and probably for the wives or the more likely the mistresses, or the people, the generals who come to the party. So at this point in time, everybody's feeling good because Xerxes is going to go down and he is going to win a great battle against the Greeks, and he is going to avenge the loss of his father Artaxerxes. So, can I get somebody to read verse 10 to 12, please?
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus, to bring Vashti before him with her royal crown in order to display her beauty to the people and the princes, for she was beautiful. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command delivered by the eunuchs, and the king became very angry, and his wrath burned in him. How far am I going?
That's it, far enough.
Okay,
so Xerxes is feeling good. He's feeling a little happy. He's a little bit plastered. So is everybody else. but he's got a beautiful wife. And so yes, he's got many wives, but Vashti is the queen of the queens, shall we say? And she is beautiful, and so he wants her to come out in her crown. Maybe all he wants her to come out in is her crown, but he wants to show off his beautiful wife to all of these drunken men, to ogle her, and to let him know what a great man he is. And I'm keeping this PG-13 as much as I possibly can, because he wants to show off that he is man enough to tame this beautiful woman, because he is Xerxes, getting ready to go out to fight. Now, Vashti, however, she doesn't want any part of it. Okay, she's not going to go out there. She's not going to get oogled. She's not going to be treated as a pawn and as an object for these idiots to oogle and everything else. And so she says, I ain't coming. She sends word back to the king, "O king, may you live forever. I'm not going to be there." And this didn't go over well. Okay, if you have a king who's drunk with too much testosterone, you're going to have problems. And so he goes to his learned men, and they want to know, what do I do with Vashti, who refuses to come out and become an object? And I love this in verse 13. I'll go ahead and read this. And then the king said to the wise men, who knew the times, for this was the king's procedure toward all who were versed in law and judgment, and said, what do I do with this gal? According to the law, what is to be done? This is verse 15. Yes, I'm avoiding the names. What is to be done to Queen Vashti, because she has not performed the command of the king, delivered by the eunuchs? Now, they got a problem here. Because if Vashti does not do what the king wants her to do, and if the king lets her get away with it, what's going to happen throughout the land of Persia?
Everyone will disobey.
What's that?
Everyone will disobey.
Well, not necessarily everyone, but every wife. Okay, that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that these men are going to tell their wives to do something, and the wives are going to say, hey, Vashti didn't do it, I ain't going to do it either. And so now we got problems, okay? I mean, if you're messing with someone's, video game time because mama says you got to do something, take out the trash, that's a problem. And so they say, okay, what do you do? What are we going to do? We are men here, right? We're men of the world. How can I continue with my authority and yet also, what can I do to maintain order in Persia? So it was decided the best thing you should do is you should fire her. You should demote her. Put her out. Now, she's not going out of the harem, okay? 'Cause she's not going to be the husband of anybody else because she has been with the king. So, but what he can do is he can demote her to the lowest place in the harem. And that is exactly what he does. So here we have Vashti. Like I say, Vashti is the only one that I can find in the book of Esther that's completely righteous, or that's close to being righteous. Because she's the only one that's going to say, I'm not going to do this because it's wrong. And so now we got to find us a new queen. So that's what we're going to do. Chapter 2. Can I get somebody to read the first 4 verses of chapter 2?
After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus subsided, he remembered Vashti, what she had done, and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, let beautiful young virgins be sought for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather all the beautiful young virgins to Shushan the citadel, into the women's quarters, under the custody of Hegai, the king's eunuch, custodian of the women, and let beauty preparations be given them. Then let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This thing pleased the king, and he did so.
Okay, we'll stop there. So, after a while, the king's anger starts to subside, and he remembers that Vashti was beautiful. And he kind of liked hanging out with her. He liked getting to know her, shall we say, in the biblical sense. And so now he gets a little bit lonely because he doesn't have his beautiful arm candy right there, who has to do whatever he wants.
Why?
What's that?
Why could this be?
You know, who would have thought that making us that wanting to turn your wife into an object and have everybody oogle her, who could believe that would actually turn into a bad idea? To find out your wife says, no, I'm not going to do this, so he gets mad. And so what he does is he is going to just basically says, okay, you're gone, and I'm going to get rid of not only is she beautiful, but she also is a woman who has standards. Okay, in everything that I could think of, this is a woman you want to hang on to. But not him, because he is... Never mind, I won't say what I'm thinking. He's thinking with the wrong part of his anatomy, shall we say. And so they come up with, so his lackeys come up with this brilliant idea. Okay, king. I'm going to try to say this with a straight face. That you're feeling a little lonely, shall we say, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to send talent scouts all throughout the land of Persia, and we are going to find the most beautiful virgins that we can possibly find, young women that we can find, and we are going to bring them to you, and we are going to parade them before you. We are going to let you spend the night getting to know them in the biblical sense. And then you get to choose the one that you like the best, and that one is going to take the place of Vashti to be queen. Now the other ones, because they have already been used by the king, they're wasted anywhere else. They must stay in the harem. So, and the king says, this is a great idea. Of course he said it was a great idea.
Massively wonderful save.
What-
The advisors
was
who
that-
told him to get rid of his girl in the first place.
Yeah, I think they were probably pretty excited that, hey, this is a way we can get back. He can still be the vigorous, King Xerxes that we know. Give him cosmetics, let them come in and find the one who pleases. So this is the plan. Okay, the plan is we're going to go out, we're going to pimp out a bunch of gals. And we're going to bring him in here, find out the one that you like the best, and then we'll basically discard the others. Because, remember, in Xerxes' mind, women are nothing but chattel anyway, that it doesn't really matter. He hasn't changed at all. Okay, his mindset is still the same as it was. And so we have that there was a Jew in Susa, in the citadel, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives, carried away with Jeconiah, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away. And he was bringing up Hadassah, that is Esther, the daughter of his uncle, for she had neither father nor mother, and the young woman had a beautiful figure and was lovely to look at. So we have Mordecai, okay, who is a distant cousin of King Saul, and of the tribe of Benjamin. He is in the city, and he has a niece who's a babe. Cousin, yes, right, cousin, yes. So he has a cousin who is apparently amazing looker. So who's destitute. She doesn't have father, mother. And so verse 8, when the king's order and his edict were proclaimed, and when many young women were gathered in Susa, the citadel in the custody of Hegai, Esther was also taken into the king's palace to put in the custody of Hegai, who was in charge of the women. And the young woman pleased him and won his favor, and he quickly provided her with cosmetics and her portion of food, and with 7 chosen young women from the king's palace, and advanced her and her young women to the best place in the harem. So, Esther is beautiful. Esther has a good personality. And so she gets taken into the harem, and Haggai says there's something about this gal that I like, and so he puts her in the best place, gives her everything that she needs. And so now when the turn came for each young woman to go up to King Xerxes, after being 12 months under the regulations for the women, since this was the regular period of their beautifying, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with spices and ointments for women. Folks, we're talking about a year in the spa that to make themselves beautiful and to go into the king. When the young women went into the king in this way, she was given whatever she desired to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening she would go in the morning she would return to the second harem in the custody of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the concubines. And she would not go to the king again unless the king delighted in her and she was summoned by name. So, what's going on here? What's actually happening here? Let's go in the dirt. Go in the gutter. The women, after a year of beauty treatments, they are to go in and spend the night with the king. And they are to go into the night and they are to say their prayers and read Vespers, right? No. They are in there to use all of their feminine wiles, and yes, I do mean all of them, to make the king as happy as they possibly can. Yes, they're being pimped out. They are spending the night with the king, and they are doing the dirty with the king. And then when he's finished with them, he sends them to the second harem with a lower ranking eunuch, and they stay there unless he thinks, oh, hey, that was a pretty good night. I like to see about doing that some more. And then they would bring her back in, and they would go through the same evening ritual. She could bring whatever she wanted. Yes?
He was in such a hurry, but he's waiting like a year for each one of these girls.
Well, there's sometimes you just gotta, there's you gotta sacrifice for the team, okay? Because you can bet. Remember, he's already got a harem. Okay, so he's already getting his appetite wet with the B squad. Okay, while they're bringing the A squad into him night after night. Okay, I mean this is a guy that would Solomon couldn't even dream up of this. Okay, and again, we don't know how many women they got to before they got to Esther. It doesn't say. Yes.
There are records that at this time in his reign, a massive building was added to the palace.
Yeah. So
right next to the chamber.
Exactly. Yes. It was. And so, verse 15. When the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his own daughter, to go into the king, she said, ask for nothing except what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who had in charge the women, advised. Now Esther was winning favor in the eyes of all who saw her, and when Esther was taken to the king Xerxes into his royal palace in the 10th month, which is a month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign, the king loved Esther more than all the women, and she won grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. So, let's think about this. Okay, this is the 7th year of his reign. So now we're looking at
4 years after the party.
Yes. Also, right after he gets back from getting his butt kicked against the Greeks. So this year that they're putting into waiting, okay, Xerxes is on. He's actually out going up against the Greeks. So in 380, he wins at Thermopylae. And he's feeling really good, and then his fleet goes up against the Greeks at Salamis, and he gets the fleet gets destroyed. And then at Plataea, is when he finally loses. In fact, in my class on the intertestamental period in my freshman year at Multnomah, we had to ask. Well, the question was, what was the last battle that Xerxes had when against the Greeks that when he lost? And I could not remember this, and I still have a block on this. On my test, I wrote the P word. And then I put a little note on this. Dr. Tim, I just have a mental break on this. And he gave me credit for it. So Dr. Tim, thank you so much. That and to this day, I can never remember so I actually have it written down here, and I didn't write it very easy, and I actually didn't write it down very well. So it was at the Battle of the P word, where he finally lost. And so he goes back to Susa, feeling pretty low, and just when he gets back to Susa, that's when they are finishing up their year-long beauty treatments in getting ready to go into the king. So there's a lot of good going on at this point in time. Okay, they were performing a national duty, shall we say, and so. Yeah, exactly. That's right. They are doing whatever they can to elevate the king's spirits. So now, at this point in time here, so Esther wins the. She wins more than a Miss Persia contest. That not only does she please the king in what she looks like, but apparently she also pleased the king. Okay, and so she was the all-around winner. She becomes the queen in place of Vashti because she is the best at whatever. Anyway, so, and I told you this is a very, very...
We would have said that in high school. I won't say it.
Yeah, there's a, so... I mean, if you're watching this online, I have been unjustly accused of being a little bit sarcastic at times, and so, yes, it comes out in the book of Esther. So now, okay, so Esther comes in, she wins. The king makes a great feast for all of his officials and servants, and he also gave them some tax breaks in the provinces, and he gave gifts with royal generosity. So Esther becomes queen, and now we have a tax moratorium for a little bit, okay? So the Vienna School is working. Supply side economics at its best. And so people are now happy. And so because there is much rejoicing, because the king has found somebody who can make him happy. I'm sorry. So now we have a little bit of intrigue taking place. Okay, can I get someone to read verses 19 to the end of chapter 2?
And when the virgins were gathered together a second time, then Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Esther had not yet made known her kindred or her people, even as Mordecai had commanded her, for Esther did what Mordecai told her, as she had done when under his care. In those days, while Mordecai was sitting in the king's gate, Bigthan and Teresh, two of the king's officials from those who guarded the door, became angry and sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. But the plot became known to Mordecai, and he told Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordecai's name. And when the plot was investigated and found to be so, they were both hanged on the gallows, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles of the king's presence.
Alrighty, so we have a plot. The plot thickens. There is a plot. Now, so all the virgins are gathering together. Nobody knows Esther's a Jew yet. And Mordecai overhears a threat against the king. Now, let's think about this. Why in the world would there be a threat against the king?
He just lost some wars, some battles.
Lost a major face for Persia to those pesky Greeks. This is twice.
Yeah.
0-2 against Greece.
Yeah. It's also very possible, we don't know, okay? So I'm throwing this out there, but we do know this, is that there were many plots against Xerxes. The reason was that when he lost, How do you lose a battle? How do you lose a series of battles? What do you have to do to lose the battles?
Not plan properly.
Okay, even more basic than that.
Not have God go before you.
Okay, even more basic than that. I used to tell my baseball team all the time. I said, you know how you win baseball games? So what? So I want you to write this down. Already. Okay, coach, I'm ready. You win baseball games by scoring more runs than the other team. You know how you lose games? By scoring fewer runs. You know how you lose a battle? By losing more men. Okay? Because remember, warfare is all about killing people and breaking their things. So if you have the other team, if the other side kills more of your people than you kill of their people, or they make it really bad for you, you're going to lose. So what happened was, and the defenders typically have the upper hand because they know the terrain and so on. So what happened was Xerxes lost a lot of men who were killed. They had gone through, the Greeks had gone through their tunics, gotten all the loose change. They were gone. So what we know for a fact is that, at least history tells us, that there were a series of people who were plotting against Xerxes because they were angry because not only did Persia lose its power and its prestige among the world, but more importantly, brothers, fathers, sons were thrown away for Xerxes' pride. Yeah, Eric?
The army that goes into Thermopylae is almost 1 million men.
Yes.
They get held off for weeks by 300 who are killing them like flies in the narrow pass. It's an embarrassment that Xerxes should have been able to get away from. And the only way to get out of it is by treachery.
Yeah, and the thing is that and then not only does he wins that battle. Okay, he wins Thermopylae.
Costs him big.
But and then his flotilla, the tide goes out, and his navy is left on high ground, and they're destroyed. And then as they're leaving, because they have no more ships, they get clobbered again by an incredible ambush. So the thing was, not only did even the battle he won, he lost. And then to make it worse, he lost and lost and lost. So this is, right now, Xerxes has nothing going for him. Okay, so, but Mordecai overhears the plot. And so Mordecai, who's a shrewd guy, remember, Mordecai is smart enough to get his relative close to the king, okay, and now he's going to get in further with the king by telling them about this plot to kill Xerxes. And Xerxes does not handle that well. They get the rabble-rousers out, they kill them, and life is good. And it was recorded in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. So basically it was written down in their history book. And what's that? Yes, that's right. Captain's log, star date, that... So the point is that, now remember, in the ancient world, you only write down in the log good things, okay? So Thermopylae is recorded in the log as we won. That's it, okay? And whether you, like when you're playing baseball, whether it's an infield hit or it's a ball, it's a single off the center field fence, nobody cares. It still goes into the books as a hit. And so Thermopylae, they won. We're not going to talk about the fact we got our butts kicked in the process. And then there is no mention of Salamis or the P word after that. Yes, exactly. And so this was a good thing that happened, that there was a man who loved the king enough to warn him. So that's this side. Now on the other side here, we've got Mordecai, who's a shrewd politician. Okay? Now we get Haman. Yes, big chords. So Haman, I don't even know what to say about Haman. That he's just
Another massive ego.
Yes, I'm not sure which one is more, which ego is bigger, his or Xerxes. But whenever you say Haman, you spit. Okay. So can I get somebody to read the first 6 verses? We're going to go a lot faster as we come through this, but we have to set the stage. The first 6 verses of chapter 3, please.
After these things, King Xerxes promoted Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, and advanced him and set his throne above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman. For the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why do you transgress the king's command?"
Keep on going through verse 6.
Through 6, I'm sorry. Okay. And when they spoke to him after the day, and he said not, and when they spoke to him day after day, and he would not listen to them, they told Haman in order to see whether Mordecai's words would stand. For he had told them that he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow down or pay homage to him, Haman was filled with fury. And he disdained to lay hands on Mordecai alone. So they had made known to him the people of Mordecai. Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes.
Okay, so there's nothing worse than a small man who's got a lot of power. And that would be Haman. He somehow failed upward. And I say that because I can't find where this guy's got half. I don't think he's got the brains God gave geese. I really don't. But what's that?
It never hurts to kiss up to the boss.
Yeah, and that's the only way I can think of Haman actually coming to power. So he is. So he comes in. He is put into a high esteem. Think of him as the president, not the president. Think of him as a vizier. Think of him as a governor, I guess, if you will. Okay, but I don't know, the Secretary of State. So he's way up there in the government, okay? So when you come by, what you would do is you would bow before somebody. You would do this. This was a sign of respect. You're paying homage to him. You were saying that you are a great man, okay? That's what you were doing, okay? So I am trying to teach our kids in Mastering Motherhood, for example. I've been teaching them what the password is. The password is Pastor Dan is good, Pastor Dan is wise. And so so that is what we are working on right now. Okay? And so that would be what the Haman just makes it even worse. So whenever you walk by, you're supposed to bow down to Haman and say, "Oh, great Haman, you are so great. I am just a worm," or whatever, right? Now, Mordecai, however, Mordecai's going, "Dude, you're an idiot." And Dan's Hebrew, okay? And now he's also a Jew. Okay, and again, the man who pimped out his family member, okay, it still has some standards, okay? As a Jew, I'm going to pick and choose what I'm going to do, so I am not going to bow down before this idiot because he's just merely a man. And so, what's that?
The guy that told Esther, "Don't tell people what your lineage is."
Yeah, yes.
Tells everybody that I'm not bowing down to Haman because I'm Jewish.
Yeah, so anyway, so Mordecai is, but again, there's some things that Mordecai we know about. Mordecai also warned the king and saved his life. Okay, that's probably a good thing. He's probably that's going to come back if he definitely has an ace up his sleeve, if you will, which Haman does not know about. So he walks by, he does not bow down, and these people are going, "Dude, why don't you do that?" And Mordecai says, "The guy's an idiot, I'm not going to do this, I'm Jewish, and we bow down before no man, because we are not doing this whole idol thing." Because after all, when we were in Babylon, there were 4 men who didn't, of all the people who were there. Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael, and Daniel, who did not eat of the king's food. And so we don't know of anybody else who didn't bow before the bunny. We got 3 of them who didn't do that we know of. We've got Daniel with Darius earlier, who did not do this, and he ended up in the lion's den, and he petted the pussycats, and life was good, and I'm not going to do it either. And so when you have a small man with a lot of pride and a big ego and a bunch of power, that's a problem. So Haman, instead of saying, I don't like Mordecai, so therefore I'm going to take Mordecai out, no, that's not enough for Haman, because he's an idiot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe out his entire people group. Take them all out. He's Jewish, I'm going to take out the Jews. Now, obviously, Haman has not read history and knows that's probably a bad thing to do, but he does it anyway. And so he comes up with this plan. He wants to take him out. However, God, who, as I have said many times, has an absolutely warped sense of humor. So, where are we going to read to? Let's go ahead. Where are we here?
Just a little piece of context.
Yes.
This is the environment that those 2 pesky guys out in Judah send the letter back saying,
Yeah.
Ezra is trying to build a temple and they're not going to honor you, king.
Okay, let's go. Let's read. Let's read 7 to 11. Let's do this.
In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Xerxes, they cast that is, they cast lots for Haman day after day. And they cast it month after month till the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws. So that is not to the king's profit to tolerate them. If it please the king, let it be decreed that they will be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, that they be put into the king's treasury. So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman the Agagite, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews. And to how far did?
Read the end of the chapter.
Okay. And the king said to Haman, the money is given to you. And the people said, to do with as it seems good to you. Then the king's scribes were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, an edict, according to that of Haman, to all that Haman commanded, was written in the king's satraps, and to the governors over all the provinces and the officials of all the peoples, to every province in his own script and every people in its own language. It was given in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the people's provinces with instruction to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the document was to be issued as a decree in every province by proclamation to all the peoples to be ready for that day. The couriers went out hurriedly by order of the king, and the decree was issued in Susa, the citadel. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was thrown into confusion.
Okay, so here we have the brilliance of Haman. That
Why do you keep doing that?
because the Jews, whenever they say the word Haman, they spit.
Oh.
So I'm doing it in case Stevens.
It's
No.
part of the theatrics of the Feast of Purim.
I'm just seeing it just in case Steven's watching. He'll know that I've got you, man. Okay, or any of my Jewish friends are watching. I want to make sure that I'm doing right by them. Okay, so here we have almost everybody in Susa knows that Mordecai is a Jew. There's one guy who has not been told that Mordecai is a Jew. Who is that one guy?
The king.
The king. Haman, he goes to the king and says, there is a man of a certain group of people who don't love you anymore, and who aren't doing what you want, and who treated me mean, and they were no bad people. And so, Xerxes is not the sharpest tool in the box. Okay, I try to make him be good, but I can't. He's just I don't know. He's the Arnold Schwarzenegger of what's that?
He's too busy in the harem to think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's got his mind elsewhere. Anyway, So he said, there's a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those in every other people. And they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not the king's profit to tolerate them. So let me go after, give me an edict to destroy them all.
And I'll finance it.
Give me some, what's that?
And by the way, I'll finance it for you.
Yeah, so Xerxes says, cool. And it's in Persian, but that's what he says. He says, cool, go ahead and do it. Whatever you think you ought to do, go out and do it. So now, Mordecai, who told everybody he's a Jew, so Haman knows that he's Jewish, and so now we're going to take out all of the Jews. So Mordecai hears about it. I love it. He tore his clothes. That's what we're going to do. We're going to tear our clothes. It's the first thing we're going to do, okay? That just means we're really upset, okay? California, if I was in California, I would say he was totally bummed, man. That is the ultimate, and I'm feeling your pain. So he was completely bummed out, and put on sackcloth and ashes, went out into the midst of the city, and he cried out with a loud and bitter voice. And when he went up to the entrance of the king's gate, for no one was allowed to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth, and in every province, wherever the king's command, his decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and lamenting, and many of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. So we are totally destroyed. All the Jews throughout the land, they are going to die. Absolutely, absolutely. This is the bring out your dead kind of thing. Not quite, but it's going to happen. And so now here we have, they're all bumming out. They're all like weeping all over each other, right? Esther, however, happy music, is back in the palace, hanging out with the spa and keeping the king happy. So, but one of them comes up and tells the queen what's happened, and the queen gets greatly distressed. And so she sent garments to clothe Mordecai, because that's what you do, right? When you're totally depressed, you go out shopping for somebody.
Well, I mean, he's come up to work this way, back to the king's gate. And
yes.
You're not supposed to be gloomy on the job when you're working for the king.
Yeah. And so she sends in some clothes because that's going to make everybody happier. He goes out to Nordstrom Rack, gets him some clothes. Mordecai tells so of course she wants to know, hey, Mordecai, why are you so upset, right? Tell me about it. Talk to me, man. Talk to me. Of course, she's not going. She sends out a eunuch instead. So he tells the eunuch what's going on. And Mordecai told them all that had happened to him and the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasuries for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree to take back to Esther. So he takes it back to Esther, and Esther's going, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And so she's not quite sure what she's supposed to do. And so they told Mordecai that, okay, hey, she's feeling your pain, man. She's feeling your pain. She's the queen. She's with you. She's with you. I'm going to leave from behind. You're good. So, because she's out there, and so Mordecai comes out, and we find out why Mordecai pimped out his cousin. And in verse 12 of chapter 4, and they told Mordecai what Esther had said, and then Mordecai told him to reply to Esther, "Do not think yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than any other Jew. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish." So, because basically Esther is saying that, it sucks to be you Jews. I'm standing here in the palace and I'm doing pretty good. And then Mordecai says, no, sweetheart, that ain't the way it's going to work. You were Jewish. Haman wants all the Jews dead. That would be you. Okay, and so you're not going to escape. But then he also tells her, he says, Esther, you're put into this place for such a time as this. Okay, that God is going to bring deliverance to the Jews. How do we know that? Put our dispensational hats on.
Because he promised already. Because we have the
We're working.
Grant.
We got the thank you. Yes.
Abraham.
Very little pulling from me. That we had the royal grant that God gave to Abraham. You cannot kill the Jews. You cannot wipe them out. Everybody who has tried in the course of history has lost. You can't do it. Mordecai knows that. Mordecai's playing with house money. Now, you can take out a lot of them, but you can't take out all of them. And so he says, God is going to deliver the Jews because our survival is not based on our abilities, nor is it based on our righteousness. It is based on the character of God. If you wimp out on me, Esther, you and your entire family are going to die. But God will protect the Jews. And then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai in verse 15. Go gather all the Jews to be found in Susa and hold a fast on my behalf, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young women will also fast as you do. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Mordecai then went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. So Esther goes to her ladies and says, we're not going to eat or drink for 3 days. They're going, yeah, cool, right? Probably doesn't tell them why, but she's the queen, so they're going to do what they're told. And so she wants everybody to pray, and she's going to do this, and she says, hey, you know what? If I perish, I perish. But at least I'm going to go down swinging, as it were. And so you guys go out there and pray, and they began to do that. So now Esther has to plan. Now, how did Esther first how did she first gain the favor of the king?
She made him happy.
She made him happy. And it started out because she was
Pretty.
yes. The picture,
Sorry, wrong word. Hot.
she was hot. Yeah, she was hot. So the picture that I have when he first saw her, when she walked in, was that of Bugs Bunny, when he first saw the female bunny and the ooga ooga, the heart pounding like that. That's what I picture happened when he first saw her. Kind of like what I first thought when I saw Jane, when I know Eric first thought when he saw Stephanie. That just work with me here. That absolutely, yeah. Okay, I'm working with you here. So, Andy, if you're watching, I know that's how you felt when you first saw Carol. And so, anyway, so she puts on the third day, Esther put on her royal robes, stood in the inner court of the king's palace in front of the king's quarters while the king was sitting on his royal throne. I'm assuming that's actually a chair. Inside the throne room, opposite the entrance to the palace, when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she won favor in his sight, and he held out to Esther the golden scepter that is in his hand. So basically what happens, if he hasn't summoned her, she can't go to him. And if she does, and if he's in a bad mood, and he doesn't lift the scepter, she's a dead woman. But we're going to pull this off. She's beautiful. She's hot. Okay. And apparently, of all the women that he saw, she was the one that was the best, most compatible. He remembered what happened with Vashti, apparently, and he lifts up his scepter, and she goes in. And she says, my sweet, what is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you, even to the half of my kingdom. And Esther said, if it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a feast that I have prepared for the king. And the king said, bring Haman quickly so that they may do as Esther asked. And so the king brought him, and I'm getting a little dry here. So they came to the feast that Esther had prepared. They were drinking wine after the feast. And she's being coy here. What do you want, dear? Up to half my kingdom. He knows she knows that she wants something. And her answer was, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, may it please the king to grant my wish and fulfill my request. Let the king and Haman come to the feast that I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king has said. So she's going to set him up. Okay, we're going to make him feel good. Haman, who is very happy, but Haman, very proud, he is going not once but twice to eat in familia with the king and the queen. He is feeling it. He's on. Tomorrow I'm going to let you know. Now Esther doesn't know what's happening here. Okay? So Haman is he's so excited about this that he's going to be so what does he do? He's going to, you know what you do when you're really excited? And you know what you do when you get a royal invitation for dinner? Well, the first thing you do, of course, is you got to brag first. The second thing you got to do is you got to build some gallows. So you can take out the guy that would not bow down before you, and he basically said, you're an idiot. So that would be Mordecai. So he goes out and he builds this, he's going to hang Mordecai, and that's how he's going to celebrate this incredible honor. Yes?
I love what he says here. I've got all these honors, but Mordecai won't bow down, and so I'm not satisfied.
Yeah. Anybody who's ever been around a 2-year-old, you know exactly what's going on here. So yes, that he is Mordecai has stolen his joy. The words of Lucy. He has stolen his joy. And so
Wife gives a wonderful advice.
So yes, his wife says, hey, he's a Jew, man. Just leave, just drop it, dude. It ain't gonna go well for you. But no, Haman is gonna do it. So now, while this is happening, the king goes nighty-night. He goes to bed, and he has a hard time sleeping. And so, what do you do when you have a hard time sleeping? You have somebody come in and read you the greatest hits of Xerxes. And so you bring in the annals, because of course the annals only talk about what is good and what is happy, and so therefore you're going to bring these annals in so that we can all say how great Xerxes is. And in the process of having somebody read to him, because he's a king, he cannot bother his royal eyes to read. He has somebody reading for him, probably in that James Earl Jones voice, or the Men's Warehouse voice, or somebody like Stephen Worley reading for you. Yes, and so, and they read the story of Mordecai. Now remember, they don't know, at this point in time, the king doesn't know that Mordecai is a Jew. All he knows is he's hanging out at the city because he was an official, and he let the king know of this plot to kill him. And so he's wondering, what should I do? What should I do for this guy? And so, now we know that Xerxes is not the sharpest tool in the box. So he's going to need some help, because every time he does something. Now, the funny thing is, you would think every time he goes to his learned advisors, they give him bad advice. Although this one here was God giving brilliant advice, because God, again, has a warped sense of humor. So he wants to know, what can I do to honor this man? And so Haman coming in the morning, coming to work. He's got his best suit on, and he's got his tie just right. Probably a Oxford knot or something, coming in, telling everybody, hey, I'm having dinner with the king. You're not. And so he's feeling really good. He goes into the king's presence, and the king says, Haman, I have a problem that I need your help with. What do you do with somebody who has done you a great service? And you want everybody to know that he has done you a great service. Can I get somebody to read verse 7 to 11? I just got yes. Somebody else just needs to enjoy the delicious irony here.
Then Haman said to the king, for the man whom the king desires to honor, let them bring a royal robe which the king has worn, and the horse which the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal crown has been placed. And let the robe and the horse be handed over to one of the most noble princes of the king, and let them array the man whom the king desires to honor, and lead him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, this is what's done to the man whom the king desires to honor.
Okay, stop. We're going to just enjoy this for a second. Who does Haman think that Xerxes is talking about?
Who could want to honor the king more? Who could the king want to honor more than me?
Yes.
Big ego.
He's got it.
Big ego, itty bitty.
But okay, but also, big ego, itty bitty space.
This is the precursor to the Napoleon complex. That's kind of how it got started.
No,
The Napoleon complex is as old as time.
There you go.
yeah, but no, Napoleon could not hold this guy's beer. Anyway, he's thinking. Now, because remember, now again, he's been to dinner once. Queen Esther wants to bring him to dinner again. Okay, it's not unreasonable for him to think that he's a golden boy. So, he comes up with this elaborate thing so everybody will know, especially that rascally Jew Mordecai, will know how great I am.
Everyone.
Tremble before me, minions. Okay, let's keep reading.
Okay. Everything in this, right, makes him look like he's second to the king.
Absolutely, yeah, keep on reading.
10. And then the king said to Haman, take quickly the robes and the horses you have said, and do so for Mordecai the Jew, who's sitting in the king's gate, and do not fall short in anything of all that you have said. Bum, bum, bum.
Keep going.
So Haman took the robe and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city square and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king desires to honor. And Mordecai returned to the king's gate.
No, we'll stop there. Sorry. In the words of Shakespeare, Haman's countenance fell. I just cannot. I just want us to kind of experience for a second here the letdown. Okay, we're talking about a serious amount of adrenaline lost at this point in time. We're talking about the Hindenburg going down at this point. Okay, the pop of that. Yeah, that not only does the king say, okay, I want you to do this to your mortal enemy. Okay, because remember, the king still doesn't know that the Jews are the ones that are supposed to be killed. Okay, the guy does not read the newspaper. Okay, so how do we know that? Because he said, take Mordecai the Jew. Okay, so and do this to him, and so Haman has to put Mordecai, his mortal enemy, up on the horse that the king had ridden, giving him all his stuff, and then he has to go out with a smile on his face and say, "Look, this is what happens to the guy who the king favors."
You gotta wonder
What?
if he's trying to mutter that. Gritted teeth, maybe.
Hushed tones.
The picture that I have here, this is not. Remember when Wile E. Coyote gets the rocket? He's going after the Roadrunner, and he's excited. And he's on the rocket, and he's catching up the Roadrunner, and he's just about to grab him, and the Roadrunner goes around the corner, and Wile E. Coyote goes flying off the cliff, and he looks whoosh, down. That's what I envision right here. And then when he pulls himself up out of the crater that looks like Acme rocket with Wile E. Coyote on it, and he sits there and he's got his hand like this, and he just does this with his fingers or his paws or whatever. That's what I picture happening here. It may not have happened, but that's what I picture. This is the beginning of a very, very bad day. But Could be raining, right? That he's out there having to take his. So I actually have a thing on how many stupid illusions I make tonight. So he has to basically humiliate himself, put his arch enemy up, but at least he's got dinner with the queen, right? So we're going to salvage this day, and we are going to go out and we are going to have dinner with the queen.
We got to whine to our wife first.
Yeah. So we come home, we whine to the wife, and she says in that beautiful way, what does she say?
Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish origin. You will not overcome him, but you're going down, boy.
Yeah, and she's already told him that once before. She's basically saying, I told you so. That, okay, you're going down. So he's going to go, he's going. And, okay. They go to they have show up in verse 12. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman hurried on to his house, complains to his wife. And while they were yet talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried to bring Haman to the feast that Esther had prepared. So good news, right? It's looking up. It's looking up. I'm going to go spend some time with Xerxes. I can call you Xerx. And Esther. I can call you S. So the king and Haman went into the feast with Queen Esther. On the second day, as they were drinking wine at the feast, the king said to Esther, what is your wish, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted you. And what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom it shall be fulfilled. And then Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be granted me for the wish, for my wish, and my people for my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. And if we had been sold merely as slaves, men and women, I would have kept silent. For our affliction is not to be compared with the loss to the king. Now, I want you to picture something here. While she is speaking, Haman is going, oh no.
This is where the coyote holds up the sign and says, Mother.
Yeah. I call this, I don't know if I can say this on tape. I call this an OS moment. That so she's speaking, and I want you to picture Haman backing into the bushes like Homer Simpson. That how can I get away with this? And then King Xerxes said to Queen Esther, who is it? And where is he who has dared to do this? And Esther said, a foe and an enemy. The wicked Haman, he is the man. Haman, and then Haman was terrified before the king and the queen. So, Xerxes is so mad that he has to get up and walk around. He needs to leave. And then he needs to get ready to put together his Bond villain speech. And so, while the king is gone, what does Haman do? He starts begging. He's falling before Esther, saying, don't kill me. It was only a misunderstanding. After all I've done for you. Family protects family. All these things. The king comes back in, and he finds Haman falling all over the queen. And what does he do?
Assumes.
Yeah, he thinks the worst.
Yeah.
Now you're going to kill the queen. And so so Xerxes says, you're dead, you're gone, I'm sorry, you're out of here. Does anybody have a gallows? And somebody out there on the side there who can't stand Haman says, I happen to know where there's some gallows. And so Xerxes has Haman killed on his own gallows. But we still have a problem. The problem is that once you make a stupid law, if you're a part of the Medes and the Persians, you cannot undo it if it's been signed with a signet ring.
Which is why Vashti can't come back.
Yes. Yeah, because once you've done it, you cannot undo it. And so what they're going to do is they're going to make another law. And the other law is that the Jews can fight back. And he's also going to let everybody know that I do not like this. And so if you do this, you're going to like take the king off. And so I would not recommend that you do that. Now, there were probably people who still wanted to fight. In fact, we know that, who rose up against them. And the Jews went out there, destroyed them, and took their stuff. And the Jews were saved. The Jews destroyed their enemy in chapter 9. And life is good. And Mordecai in chapter 10 is, I love this. First of all, how do you celebrate saving your wife's family and all of her kindred? You raise taxes. And so Ahasuerus imposed a tax on the land and on all the coastlands of the sea, and all the acts of his power and might, and the full account of the high honor of Mordecai. To which the king advanced him, as they are not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Media and Persia. For Mordecai the Jew was second in rank to King Xerxes, and he was a great among the Jews, popular with the multitude of his brothers, for he sought the welfare of his people, and he spoke peace to all of his people. So Mordecai does well. Xerxes, like the true Democrat he is, he raises taxes, and life is good among the people. And so all of this happens so that God could protect the Jews. Now, that's a great story, okay, in the 13 minutes that we have left. Let's take a look at why is it in the Bible. That, because the Bible wants to teach some things that, unfortunately, since most people, many Christians don't read the Old Testament, and others don't see what's going on here. What are some of the lessons? Let's see if we can come up with this. What are some of the lessons that we can learn from the book of Esther? In no order, just what are some lessons that we can learn?
There's an improbable number of massive coincidences that happen. Who could be behind this?
Yeah. Even though God is not mentioned in the book. It's the only book of the Bible that God is not mentioned at all. But yet he's still at work, even though he appears to be absent. Is that important? Ever a time when you might feel as though God is absent? Let's be honest, have we ever felt that way? Yeah. God's still there. What else?
Be obedient.
What's that?
Always be obedient.
Okay, always be obedient. What else?
Recognition of the Jews.
Okay, that's a good place to start. Yeah, here, we'll come back here.
None of these people are in actual obedience because they're still in Persia. They didn't go back.
Uh-huh.
So God's taking care of his people is not predicated on their obedience.
Yes, absolutely. Folks, that gives me some hope. Because remember, now there's only 3 royal grants given in Scripture. You can argue that Noah was given one, but that's the rainbow. But Abraham was given a royal grant, David was given a royal grant, and we were all given a royal grant. So that is why Paul could say, when we are faithless, God remains faithful. Because God is going to work out his plan, and he can do it with people who are not, shall we say, always doing things the right way.
Most of the people that are manipulated in this book are not even Jewish.
Yes.
Ahasuerus is manipulated. Vashti is manipulated. All the king's advisors are manipulated. Haman is massively manipulated.
Yep. Well, you say that you can say that all of them except for Vashti, actually, they just lived out according to the flesh. So I say the only, in my opinion, the most righteous person in this book is Vashti, and I would say that she's the only one that's even close to being righteous because she wasn't going to do it. Yes, I mean Esther did right things, but remember she got the job because she was sleeping with the king.
This reminds me of Balaam's donkey.
Absolutely.
Vashti could have been acting out of pride too, though, because
We don't know.
yeah.
And I think the author does that on purpose. That the only one that, in my opinion, okay, my humble opinion, I've preached Esther, and I've gotten many people mad at me, and because I did what I did was I did a character study of each of the main characters. So Vashti, Xerxes, Esther, Mordecai, Haman, and so the only one that I came across as being completely righteous, according to the text, is Vashti. But also, what is the message to the world?
Don't mess with the Jews.
Yeah, just go along with what Brent said. Don't mess with the Jews. Okay, now again, when they're living in sin, does that mean that we sugarcoat any of their sin? No, of course not. We don't do that. But the point is, and for all the sanctified anti-Semitism that I find in the church today, it's absolutely disgusting. Esther tells us don't do it. Because when you're actor, they are still God's chosen people, and what Mordecai said is absolutely true. God will bring protection whether you like it or not. He will keep us alive. And we have seen that throughout the history of humanity. That from the time of Jacob, or I should say Joseph, or after Joseph, but right coming up to Moses, the world has been out to kill the people of the descendants of Abraham. And the reason they do is because if they can destroy and get rid of all of the descendants of Abraham, then God, who is the only one who signed on that covenant, God would cease to be God. That's the reason. No, he would not just be a liar, he would cease to be God. Okay? And so that's why the animus is against the Jews and not the Norwegians. Okay? And so, but the thing is that because nothing else explains why everybody is going after this itty bitty, according to the population of the world. I mean, I'm Irish. There's a whole lot more Irishmen out there than, especially on St. Patrick's Day, everyone's Irish. But but when they try to take them out, God will keep them. And so had they understood that, had Innocent III understood that, who went out there to destroy, who felt that burning at the stake was tough love for heretics and forced so many Jews to become Christians, if you will, and by the sword during the Inquisition in Spain and other places, that every time that happened, the people who did that were judged harshly. And they ended up losing their place in the world. Why is that? Because you can't touch them. You cannot touch them. That does not mean that you don't point out sin. It doesn't mean that you don't point them to a Savior. I'm not saying that at all. That doesn't mean that we overlook whatever they may be doing. But to try to take them out, don't do it. Because the smartest person in this book is Haman's wife. I mean, the rest of them, I think they're dumb as rocks. But I mean, Mordecai he's wily in that. Haman's wife's pretty smart. And so, in the place that Esther has for us, Esther is in the writings. I want to take a look at the last couple of minutes I have. That Esther is in the sections called the writings, which is the third part of the Hebrew Scriptures. You get the Pentateuch, the law, and you got the Pentateuch, the law, the prophets, and the writings. In the writings, we have all kinds of amazing stuff. We're going to spend some time in Job is in the writings, Psalms in the writings, Proverbs in the writings, and so on. But what we hear from this part is the fact that even when God appears to be absent, he's still at work. And the other thing is, and this is that is to God's people. When he appears to be absent, he's still there. But the word to the world is, don't mess with my people. Because if you mess with my people, you're messing with me. And I think that that's something that, especially as we get closer to the day of Jesus coming back, that is something that we're going to have to grab a hold of. Before the rapture takes place, you're going to see more and more anti-Semitism going to be rising up and all that, because the Antichrist has to do something with all this anti-Semitism happening. He's going to rise up and say, why can't we be friends? Let's just coexist. We're going to put on all of our cars. And then he'll do that for 3.5 years before he breaks the covenant. So thoughts or comments on the book of Esther? So, nope. Okay. And see, it wasn't as cynical as you may have thought, right? That completely uncynical look at the book of Esther. That's so. Can I get somebody to pray for us?
Yeah, you get a rating of PG-13 on your cynicism.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I get somebody to pray for us? Only 3 of you here, guys.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for tonight. We thank you, God, for the truth that sets us free found in your word. And God, just that, even like Pastor Dan was saying, when we don't see you present, you're still at work on our behalf. We thank you for this, God, even when we choose not to participate in your plan, that you still move your plan forward. We thank you for all the people that we read about tonight, and we thank you, God, for the opportunity to have a choice, to choose to obey you and to continue on. We ask and pray that we would do these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
So if you're watching online, these will be on the back table. If you could not make it today, I know the weather was bad. So next week we take a look at the book of Job. So one of the most uplifting books of the Bible. So